Welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to cover 10 of the longest ever prison sentences handed to criminals around the world. I'm not including whole life sentences in the list. These are ones that have been specified by courts in the number of years, and are often added on top of life sentences. Most of these are in America, and some of them sound ludicrous, so here they are. Martin Bryant. In 1996 in Australia, 29-year-old Bryant shot and killed 35 people, and wounded another 23, when he launched a random attack in Port Arthur. This attack was the deadliest mass shooting in Australia's history. Bryant claimed to be inspired by the Dunblane massacre in Scotland, which happened months before his attack. Although he suffered with severe intellectual difficulties, he was assessed as fit to stand trial for the murders, and pleaded guilty to all of them. He received 35 life sentences for each murder, and an additional 1,035 years for wounding others, without ever being eligible for parole. Rene Lopez. In the United States in 2016, Lopez was convicted of raping his teenage daughter dozens of times, over a period of 4 years. This was in addition to 186 sexual assaults, which ended in 2013 when she told police. At one point she had even got pregnant, and he had paid for an abortion to try and hide his crimes. His daughter had kept a diary of each time he raped or sexually abused her, which strengthened the case, and helped police convict him. He pleaded not guilty to all charges. He was offered plea deals of 22 years, and then 13 years for admitting his guilt. He refused them and maintained his innocence, and he blamed his daughter. He was found guilty of all charges, and because he showed no remorse, he was sentenced to 1,503 years. Moses Sithole. In South Africa, between 1994 and 1995, Sithole murdered at least 38 people, but police believe this could be as many as 76. He became known as the ABC Killer because of the areas he targeted: Atteridgeville, Boksburg and then Cleveland. In addition to the 38 murders, he was also convicted of carrying out 40 rapes and 6 robberies. He went on trial in 1997 and was sentenced to 2,410 years, and must serve a minimum of 930 years, meaning he will never be released. James Egan Holmes. In Colorado, United States, in 2013, 25-year-old Holmes opened fire at a cinema that was showing The Dark Knight Rises movie. His gunshots killed 12 people and injured over 70 others. Knowing that the police could identify him, and they would go to his apartment looking for him, he booby-trapped the apartment with explosives. Luckily they were defused by a bomb squad without any injuries. He was arrested and charged shortly after, and was remanded in custody awaiting trial. He pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, but was found guilty. He was sentenced to 12 consecutive life sentences, plus an additional 3,318 years without parole. He will never be released. Rigoberto Vazquez Hernandez. In 2013 in Dallas, United States, Hernandez was convicted for a triple homicide, which took place outside a Dallas nightclub in the early hours of the morning. The 3 victims were all shot in the head at point-blank range, and died instantly. Police were able to identify him, and a manhunt was launched. However, Hernandez handed himself into the police days later, and pleaded guilty to all 3 murders. He was sentenced to 7,000 years. Dudley Wayne Kyzer. On Halloween in 1976, Kyzer walked into the home of his ex-wife, in Alabama armed with a gun. He shot her, her mother, and a college student that was visiting her at the time. He was caught by police and charged with 3 murders. The jury spent just 1 hour deliberating, before returning a unanimous guilty verdict on all 3 murders. He was sentenced to death by electric chair, but appealed in 1977 and was successful. Instead, he received 3 life sentences, with an additional 10,000 years. He became eligible for parole in 1991, but has had 10 applications turned down so far, with no prospect of him being released. He is now aged 76. Allan Wayne McLaurin and Darron Benanalford. In 1993 in Oklahoma, United States, these two men were arrested for a brutal sex attack on a newlywed woman, involving repeated rape and sodomy. And the attack lasted for several hours. They were charged with multiple rapes, but they both pleaded not guilty. The jury had no problem in finding them guilty of all charges. They were each handed 6,475 years in prison, but appealed 3 years later, hoping to get a lesser sentence. They claimed they did not get a fair trial, because the judge had implied their guilt to the jury before they deliberated. Their appeal was successful and they were granted a second trial, but they were in for a big shock. The new trial began in 1996, but they ended up getting much harsher sentences than they previously had. Other charges also came to light involving robbery, burglary, kidnapping, raping an elderly woman and assault with a dangerous weapon. McLaurin received 21,000 years. Benanalford received 11,000. Charles Scott Robinson. In December 1994, Robinson was convicted for repeatedly sexually abusing a 3-year-old girl, on 6 occasions, in Oklahoma. He denied all of the charges, but the evidence clearly indicated his guilt, and the jury found him guilty. He was sentenced to 5,000 years for each charge, making a total sentence of 30,000 years. The minimum sentence was 20 years for each count, but the jury wanted to send a powerful message to other pedophiles, in an attempt to deter other offenders. This is the longest jail term in American history to be handed to one person for multiple charges. His release date is scheduled for the 11th of November 1987, meaning he will never be released. Othman Gnaoui, Jamal Zougam and Emilio Suarez Thrashorras. The Madrid train bombings terrorist attack took place in 2004, and involved 10 separate backpacks of dynamite, distributed throughout the train. The attack killed 191 people, and injured over 2,000 others. There were 21 people charged with the attack, but the majority of them were found not guilty at trial, and these are the 3 individuals that received the longest sentences. The trial of the 3 terrorists took place in 2007. The leader of the attack was Moroccan-born Jamal Zougam, and he was sentenced to 42,922 years. Also Moroccan, Othman Gnaoui, was sentenced to 42,924. The man that supplied them with the dynamite for the attack was Spanish national Emilio Suarez Thrashorras, and he received 34,715. Under Spanish law, the maximum amount of time they can serve in prison is 40 years, and they are scheduled for release in 2044. Chamoy Thipyaso. In 1989, Thai woman Thipyaso was sentenced to 141,078 years for corporate fraud. She ran a pyramid scheme which defrauded over 16,000 Thais, which amounted to well over $201 million. Her sentence is the world's longest sentence, and it even made it into the Guinness World Records in 2006. However, because Thai law in 1989 stipulated that those convicted of fraud cannot serve more than 20 years, she was released on parole after 8 years. She can still be recalled to prison if she commits any other crimes. What do you think about this case? If you would like to join in the discussion, please leave your comments down below, but remember to keep it respectful for the victim's family. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you like true crime stories, please subscribe to my channel, as I upload new content twice per week. Also, don't forget to turn on the notification bell to be notified when I upload. Before you go, why not check out some of my other true crime videos? I have also created several playlists, which make videos easier for you to find, by the subjects that you are interested in. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please let me know.